Good afternoon, everyone. We're just waiting for a couple more people to join. But in the meantime, I'd like to welcome you to our From SIS to Full Ecosystem, Unlocking the Power of Sparkrock's Unified Approach webinar. That's a mouthful. We're excited to have you join us today for part 2 of our two-part webinar series on the Sparkrock ecosystem. Today, we will explore how Sparkrock's ERP system, which includes HR, payroll, employee self-serve, finance, procurement, and more, is tailored to meet the needs of schools in Western Canada, in particular, Alberta and Manitoba. So, first of all, I'd like to introduce myself to those who don't know you. My name's Meg Wilson. I'm a senior sales exec at Sparkrock and I've been here for 8 years, but I've been actually working with Microsoft and Microsoft Finance and ERP product for 20, 25 years, both as a user, as a director of finance, and also in the implementation and software sales. So lots of experience with that fantastic Microsoft platform that we're going to be talking about today. So a few housekeeping before we dive in. Only our moderators and speakers have camera access today. Please use the Q&A feature for any questions or comments throughout the session. And also kindly mute yourself and turn off your camera when you're not speaking. A recording of this webinar will be sent to you within a week, so please feel free to revisit any part of our discussion or pass that along to anyone else you think might be interested in it. All right, so a quick look at our agenda today. We're going to do some introductions and overview, which I'm taking care of right now. Then we're going to get into the ecosystem product information and demo with one of my colleagues. Quick reminder of some exciting news about Sparkrock. And then we're going to chat about a customer success story. And we're quite lucky to have a customer joining us today. Okay, so before we begin, I'm sure most of you have heard the news, but just in case, I want to be sure that you're all aware that Sparkrock and Assembly have merged. And this is fantastic news for the Canadian K12 space because it means we now have an organization that's stronger than its parts with more resources dedicated to product investment, implementation, and support for the whole ecosystem. So, both Sparkrock and Assembly were very strong companies unto themselves, but being able to come together and merge our resources and really benefit from each individual company's area of strength has just been fantastic. And it's really been wholeheartedly embraced by our joint customers, which we're really grateful for. So feel free to ask any questions about that and what it means for our customers and our prospective customers at the end of the webinar. Okay, so now I am going to slide forward, introduce my colleagues joining me today. Joining us from the Sparkrock team is Wendy Brown, who will be demonstrating the key functionality of our ERP solution. And Wendy is a highly experienced professional in the field of digital education. She has over 20 years of expertise in school business enablement. And she's super deeply passionate about helping schools transition to a paperless digital future. So you're going to see that. I'm going to let Wendy, when she starts off, I'm sure she'll tell you a little more about herself, but you'll certainly see her passion through her presentation. And then I'm also thrilled to have Dexter Durfee joining us today. And Dexter is the recently retired Secretary Treasurer from Palliser. He's got a great CV. I'm honored with a Life Member Award at the 2024 as BOA AGM. He served twice as BOA Provincial President. His career in business began in 1995 with West Wing School Division, and then, as I mentioned, continued until he retired in 2024. And he's been pivotal in co-founding a number of initiatives like the Southern Alberta Wind Power Consortium, the Alberta Risk Managed Insurance Consortium. He has led the Alberta School Transportation Task task force, and on and on and on. So I'm sure at the end of this webinar, he's going to speak to his experience working with our solution, and I'm sure he'll speak a little more to his experience. So Dexter, thank you so much for being here today, and look forward to hearing from you after Wendy presents the product.
Thank you.
Okay. So a little bit about Sparkrock. So as I mentioned, the acquisition is super exciting news. And what that really means for our customers is that we're stronger together. And what does that look like in terms of really tangible numbers? Well, now as a joint company, we manage $13.7 billion a year in finances managed through our application, and 10.7 billion in payroll processed through our application. That's a lot of people. 100,000, in fact, employees a month get pay stubs processed through our application. Pretty excited about that. And then, as I mentioned, I mean, we've both been around for a long time, so you've got both of us had over 20 years of experience. And a lot of those people have been around for on both companies. We have people that have been there for a large part of that, so a lot of expertise in the product. Sorry, my mouse is acting up a bit. So a little bit before we get into the presentation, just to help frame up what Sparkrock ERP is. So Sparkrock offers a full ERP platform, which, as I mentioned at the beginning, finance, HR, payroll, employee portal, and then we also have an SIS application. And we spoke about that a few weeks ago. We did an SIS webinar, so we won't be getting into any depth on that today, but that application is now integrated with our finance application. And a couple of things that are really important to understand about our platform is that we're Microsoft, we're based on the Microsoft platform. So you are not only getting the Sparkrock investment in all of those products, but you're also benefiting from Microsoft's investment in this business application that I was speaking about earlier. So when it comes to things like privacy and security, core functionality, mobile optimization, big one is AI. Microsoft, as all of you would be aware, is investing billions in AI. Sparkrock's also investing. So our clients are going to have a very current application, and being that it's a software as a service, you're only going to continue to receive benefits as new enhancements are released. So we can speak a little more about that if there's any questions, but really the message here is that we are Microsoft-based application in that whole Microsoft ecosystem, meaning that our customers benefit from not only our investment, but Microsoft's investment in this platform. Okay, so now I'm going to hand it over to Wendy, and Wendy, maybe you can elaborate on my introduction, and we'll step into the product. Wendy?
Yeah. Yes, thank you, Meg. Good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate you joining us today as we continue this journey of the ecosystem. Further to Meg's introduction, I have been serving K-12 in education since 1997 with applications to help reduce paper-based business processes. So everything from library systems to online payments. And I've now been working with the ERP for coming up on 6 years. Last webinar, we looked at the student information system, including the family portal that connected students, teachers, and parents. And today we're going to explore the Sparkrock ERP and the benefits the ecosystem can bring you for improving the onboarding of new employees, including teachers, improving the transparency to employees' personal data, and eliminating those paper-based business processes that you might be currently using for things like timesheets, for example. From there, we're going to move over to finance, where you're going to be able to see not only how we integrate with the Office 365 productivity platform, but also how we'll be transforming user experiences through the use of AI. So as Meg mentioned, we're based off of Microsoft Sparkrock 365, the foundation of that being Business Central. And if you're familiar with Business Central, you might be looking at this screen here and saying, well, wait a second, Business Central doesn't include all this functionality. And you would be right. If we were to break it down, if we look at the base Business Central and the things that we've affected the least, you can see those here in this light gray. So cash management, accounts receivable, inventory management. As we look through to the next set of features in the dark gray, we have customized and added our own IP on top of the base Business Central to enhance these specifically for the K-12 education market. And as we look at everything that is in black, these features simply don't exist in Business Central, and we have developed our own components to manage these needs for K-12 school districts and divisions across Canada. So when we jump into the live demo today, we're going to start off with that onboarding of a new hire and how you're able to integrate with third-party applicant tracking solutions. So for example, apply to education. And reduce the amount of manual effort to bring that new employee into your HR system. You're going to get introduced during this process to what we call organizational or occupational position control. And so what that means is simply with just a position ID, you can populate many of the details regarding an employee's position just through that position ID. So things like their contract, their GL responsibility, their attendance plans, all of these things can come along with that position control. You will see how we're able to manage digital documents both in HR as well as in finance, allowing you to even categorize those documents that are attached to an employee record and put expiry dates on them as well. When we move over to the employee self-service portal, you're going to see how your employees can access things like their pay statements or their T4s, update their personal information, or even automate a business process like entering and submitting a timesheet. From there, we're going to move into payroll. So a proven step-by-step payroll process that's easy to use and will provide you with accurate pay month in and month out. Over in finance, you'll be seeing an overview of the finance system, including the integration with Office 365 productivity tools and how you're able to have better visibility into your budget in real-time view, including encumbrances. So right from the time a purchase requisition is created, the funds will be encumbered from your budget, ensuring that you don't overspend. Throughout the demo today, you're going to see lots of different types of reports. You're going to see built-in reports. You're going to see some custom reports as well as Power BI. And know that all jurisdictional reporting required in your province, whether that's Alberta or Manitoba, is included with our solution as part of our out-of-a-box offering. This is 100% cloud-based, so everything I'm doing is going to be accessed through a browser. Interfaces are in a responsive design, so no matter what device you're on, the solution is going to give you the best experience. So with that, I'm going to exit out of this PowerPoint and I'm going to share my application. And as I promised, we're going to start off with the onboarding of a new hire. And so maybe somebody can just give me a thumbs up if you're able to see the screen that I'm sharing. If somebody can confirm with me, please. Perfect. Thanks, Bree.
Yeah.
Thanks, Meg. Okay. So I'm already logged in. I'm logged into our HR payroll solution, and I'm going to navigate to our hire management to onboard a new hire. So coming through our staffing module into hire management, this is going to allow me to integrate with a third-party applicant tracking solution. So you'll notice here that I have this button called Import New Hire. What that is an API pull that is going to allow me to bring down all of the applicants that were in the applicant tracking solution with a status of hired and bring them into my own hire management module here. And so what we'll see is brought over is not only just demographic information, but also, as you can see, it's going to bring along their certifications and qualifications, as well as if they had uploaded any supporting documentation with their application, those documents would be attached here. Now, as we work with this hire management record, we can bring it through different statuses. So maybe the onboarding is in progress, or maybe it was declined, what have you. Once it has been set to approved, and I'll just give my quick status here to approved. Once that is approved, I'm able to bring them into our HR system through what's called Add Employee Wizard. So coming here from the Add New Employee, it's going to open up our wizard and a step-by-step process. So not all information, of course, is included in an application by law, things like birth dates or gender, for example. And so where the required information is missing, you'll see that they're highlighted in yellow. And we do have data integrity checks along the way. So data integrity checks for things like the postal code. As you can see, I'm going to be informed if it's in the wrong format, email addresses, phone numbers, social insurance numbers, birth dates. There's data integrity checks on all of these things. And I'm just going to move forward here. I'll say do not email, and we'll click on next. So now we're in the employment section of the Add New Employee wizard. We can see here that this is the stage where my employee ID is assigned. So I now have an employee ID assigned, and I'm able to define which location this employee is going to belong to and which employee group. Now, the employee group is an important part of the management of your employees within our solution. In this example, I'm going to use a school support employee group. They're going to be active, and I'm going to set a hire date. And so I'm going to hire this employee as of September 10th, for example. Is this an educator? Yes or no? Has their source documentation been verified? And has their criminal record check been completed? Now, with everything finished, I'm able to move to the next, and I have an option to add emergency contacts, but as you'll see, you can have your employees add those in the employee self-service portal themselves. So now that we've finished the onboarding wizard, we will find that employee in our staff management, and I'm just going to search on that employee that we just added, and here they are. And so this is what we call the employee spotlight, really a 365-degree view of everything about the employee. And you can see we have these different tabs in here. So the employee information, this is what we just did. This was all the information we just added. This is where I can attach digital documentation. So for example, if I wanted to attach my certifications, and I could even put an expiry date on that. When you're making changes, you will be prompted to leave notes so that that information can be saved and understood by others in your organization. So what we want to do is we're going to assign this employee a position. So I'm going to come into my position and assignment. It's a new employee, so I don't have any history here. So I'm just going to click on Add New Position. My start date is going to be September 10th. And this is where I would enter a position ID. If I don't know the position ID, I can go out and search for it. So again, this was my school support employee group. I can filter it by location or job code or even establishment code. Once I have the position I want, I would just select it, and it's going to bring along all of the details about that position, including the GL distribution for their salary. I am able to define what their FTE is. So I'm going to make this a 1 FTE, and this is going to identify how many hours a week for this employee group that would mean. As we look at the tabs across the top, we have absence contracts. So this is a grouping of their attendance plan. So every employee group can be different. So how many sick days, excused days, and so on are all included in that absence group. And then as we look at the third tab, the assignments, this is especially important for teachers in Alberta. This is how we deliver are able to produce the twins reporting through these data elements. And so where you would have your assignment code, your start date, your end date, what is the grade, as well as the FTE. So you could maybe be a 0.5 FTE in math and a 0.5 in English or what have you. Now this isn't a teaching position, so I'm just going to delete that. And we'll save these position details that we have here. So now with a position, the next step is I'm going to add some compensation for this employee. So coming to the compensation section of the employee record, I'm going to click on Add New. And so I'm only going to be able to add compensation that is related to the position I'm assigned to. So in this case, I'm an admin assistant. I started on September 10th. And based upon my employee group, that is going to define the salary categories and steps that are available to me. So each category can have multiple salary grid steps, and that is going to define what my compensation rate is. And so I'm just going to save that. So we now have some compensation. The next thing I'm going to look at is my benefits. So I can add benefits individually just by clicking on New, but through the quick entry tool, I'm able to automatically populate all the benefits that are available for this employee group. And I can define the coverage code. So is this going to be single or family? If it's 10-month or 12 months. So I'm able to make those selections here based upon my employee. And to the right, we have the option to set up for a debit pay. So I'm going to say no for this, but a debit pay would be applicable if, for example, you have an employee on an extended leave of absence and you want to take a pre-authorized debit out of their bank account to cover their benefit premiums. So that has now added my employee into our HR system. When we move over to payroll, I'm going to show you how we then would pay this employee. But before we do that, I want us to take a look at the employee self-service. And so I'm just going to bring over another screen that I have here. And so this is what the employee self-service experience would look like. As you can see, there's a nice visual on the landing page. And so this is all about me and my attendance plan. And based upon the employee group I'm in, I have excused absences and I have sick leave. And it shows how many have been allocated and how many are available and how many I've used. So in my sick leave, I've only used 1 day, for example. As we look at the menu options available here, let's go into our personal details. This is where I would be able to access my pay statement, and I'm able to access the view not only for the current pay period, but I also can go back in time. If I'm a timesheet employee, if I'm paid by timesheet, I can actually see the timesheet that correlates to my last pay statement. And this includes, of course, your earnings and deductions, which can also be printed. As we look at additional options here, the personal profile for the employee can be updated just by clicking on the edit icon. And when it is updated, it goes through a approval process. So when I save this, you'll see that it's going to go into a status of entered. And so what that means is it's gone off to HR to approve this change. Once that change is approved, it's going to, of course, update my employee record, but also it's going to update the finance system. If I'm an employee who gets expense reimbursements, for example, and also a payroll, of course. Now, some of the business processes that we are supporting to help reduce current maybe paper-based business process is we have a integrated timesheet module. So it's always going to default to the current week. I can move forward and back. So last week I already have a timesheet. So we'll focus on today, on this week. And to enter a timesheet, I just click on new. And I'm going to choose, this particular employee here has 2 positions. So I'm going to choose their casual position to enter the timesheet against. And this is going to be an earning code of regular hours. And I'm going to set my location of where I'm working and which establishment code if required. Now here to the right, we can see we have our days of the week. And so I'm just going to enter my time in here. And what you'll see is I'm getting immediate feedback on by highlighting in orange, it's identifying that I'm over my budgeted hours for my position. And so my approver is going to be able to see that. And also I'm seeing that as I'm entering the data. And so if this really was an overtime position, what I would do is I would create a second line and I would put an earning code in here as overtime. And so what that means is I'm going to put 2 hours here. So I'll have 2 hours of overtime and 8 hours of regular time. And you're able to put a note here to explain why you might have overtime. And the approver, of course, is going to be able to see all of this as well and even deny the overtime, for example. So that now has gone over to my manager for approval. So that's a quick peek at that employee self-service. I'm just going to close out of here and we're going to continue on by looking at the pay process. So back here in my admin side, we can see I'm right now under the HR menu. I'm going to move over here to the payroll menu. And under the payroll menu, I'm going to access the menu option called Pay Run. And this is going to present cards to me exactly in the order of the steps that I need to take to do my payroll. The first step is an entitlement. And so what the entitlement is going to do is give you a report, an audit report of all changes that have happened to the employee's data that affect pay. So an entitlement would inform you of a new hire. So that new hire we just did will show up in there. Any employees that have changed positions or steps on the salary grid or added new benefits, for example, or maybe even changed their deductions. All of those things will show up on the entitlement report. The entitlement report is being run as a background process. I'm notified here through the notification tool when it's completed, and when it's completed, I'm able to access the reports. All reports from here are available as either a PDF or an Excel document. And let me just blow this up. So this is the employee that we just hired. They started on September 10th, if you recall. And the end date is currently to the end of my contract year, which in this demo environment goes to August of 2025. I can see the grid step that this employee has been assigned to, what their FTE is, what their annual rate is. And it will produce a salary entitlement as well as any adjustment that might be needed. And it will also identify all of the benefits that will be starting on this pay period as well. So with the entitlements completed, and so typically those are being run generally on a schedule of every day and being reviewed far before your pay run process. But the next step is to approve those entitlements, and that's through what we call an authorization. I'm doing this as a group authorization, but you can also do it right at the employee level. The group is great because you can approve many entitlements at once as opposed to doing them one by one. So now my next step is to schedule my groups. And so I mentioned the employee groups at the beginning of my presentation, but you can see here that I'm able to actually segment my pay by employee groups as well. You can run multiple employee groups at once. Here in this demo, I'm going to just do the one. And we can see also what else is going to happen on this pay is all of these other deductions are scheduled to be taken on this pay as well. So I'm going to schedule my pay. And then the next step here is my pay run. So I'm going to click on pay run, and it's going to do a pay run for all employees that have been groups that have been scheduled. So in this case, my school support group. And the pay run is going to produce a number of reports for us. You're going to see the most important of those reports, though, is the pay register. And with the pay register, we have a lot of options. Specifically, we can choose whether to sort by employee groups or to print group totals on a separate report. We can choose to have pay register for all employees who have year-to-date data. This is very helpful when you're doing your June end of year payrolls, for example. You can change your sort order from employee ID to surname, social insurance number, and you can also have alerts in regards to anomalies for tax that's been taken off. So this is going to inform me of anybody who has a tax deduction that's less than 10% or greater than 50% of their gross. So again, that pay register and pay process has been sent as a background process. Here in my process report editor, we can see that it's completed, and you're able to see the timing that these reports take. So this took me just 1 minute to run this pay run. Here are all of the reports that are outputted with that, and let's take a look at the pay register. And I'm just going to blow this up for us. And I'm just going to go and find that employee that we just entered. So here's the employee that we just hired. And so we're going to be able to see here their paid, their deductions, as well as to the right, we can see any board share. At the end of our pay register, we get an employee group total. So for this entire employee group, and then we also get a pay register total as well. So if there was multiple employee groups in this pay run, the pay register would give me the overall data for all of them. So from here, after the pay register has been reviewed, the next step in the business process is to either confirm or roll the pay back. So if there was a problem, it didn't pass the stakeholder review, you can roll that back and start again. If you're ready to move forward, then we would confirm the pay and submit that. And so once the pay is confirmed, we can move forward with the step of running checks and EFTs. And so we'll just make sure that this is confirmed before we move to the next step. So now that it's completed, I'm going to go to my run checks and EFTs. So here we can see I have 13 checks for $12,470, and I have 239 EFTs for over $205,000. I'm going to put in my file sequence number for my EFTs, and I will submit that. And so that is going to deposit the EFT files in a secure location where they would then be uploaded to the bank. This process will also, at the same time, by running the checks and EFTs, the pay statements are published to the employee self-service portal. So now your employees are going to be able to access those themselves. After your pay run is completed, there is a wealth of reporting tools available. So under pay period reports, we have, of course, your ATRF frequent reporting, as well as your ATRF extract file, your Revenue Canada liability reports, your garnishee reports, benefit contributions. We also offer monthly payroll reporting. So for example, your LAPP service credit report. As we look at annual reports, you're going to see your jurisdictional reports in here as well. Talking about jurisdictional reports before we jump over to finance, I did want to pause and mention that we do have the twins reporting. And as we were looking at creating those positions, it was that assignment tab where you're able to define exactly which grades and subjects that the teachers are teaching. So this is, of course, going to include their position, their FTE in the position, and their FTE in the teaching assignment. Okay. All right. So from here, where we're going to go is we're going to come to Sparkrock 365 Finance. So I'm just going to log into there. Okay, so now what we are looking at is the role center for the accounting manager. And there are actually over a dozen role centers that you can use to define for your employees across your school division. The accounting manager in this view, I'm going to have access to pretty much everything I want to do. But much like other Microsoft tools that you might be using, you'll have your menus at the top. And we also then have a favorites menu. So this line here are all of my favorites that I've chosen to which order they're in. And changing those is very easy. You have personalization settings where I can maybe, for example, I want to move the purchase requisitions to the beginning of this list instead of it being the second. And so I can just drag and drop where I want it to go, and it would allow me to personalize this experience to my preferences. As we scroll down, you can see there's an actionable dashboard. So each user, based upon their role, will have a different type of actionable dashboard. And the items in red are really going to bring my attention to what I might need to put my attention to first. As we continue down on the home page, you can see a wealth of reports and insights that allow you to jump right into different areas. So for example, if I maybe have a set of GLs that are my primary responsibility, I can view those right here. I can have my favorite vendors here. And as we continue down, additional reporting is accessible, including cash flow forecasts. Any reports that I have scheduled and have being delivered to me are going to come into my inbox. And so I can just click on any one of those to access the report. And as we continue down, we can also see how Power BI is built right in and accessible from within the application. And so we do have Power BI experts on staff that can help you not only building data reports against your finance data, but across the whole ecosystem. So let's explore a little bit more. I'm going to drill into our vendors here to share with you how throughout the system you can integrate with the Office 365 productivity suite. So I'm in my vendor file right now. And as we see here under this icon, I have options to open in Excel, edit in Excel, share to Teams. So I could share this in the screen or data that I'm looking at right in Teams, highly effective. And I could also just copy a link to this data. If I want to edit in Excel, this is extremely helpful, especially if you have mass changes to do, like maybe one of your purchasing representatives has left and you have a new one, you can come into this through an Excel and do mass changes this way. You can also add records. So if I needed to add vendor records, for example, or I can even change names. So I'm going to just quickly on this one, I'm going to call this my Alberta demo vendor. And so after you've made any changes in this Excel document, you will just publish this. And once it's done publishing, I'll get a note, okay, publish successful. And I will come back, and I don't need to save this. I'm going to come back into my finance, and I'm going to search on that vendor. So here we now have the Alberta demo vendor. So it's changed. And what I really do love about our finance solution is the change register. So you are able to use the change register to see exactly what has changed, including the old values and the new values. And so let me see, for example, here, let me just blow this up. There we go. And so you would be able to see those changes. As I mentioned, it shows the old value here and the new values over here. Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at it from May. Let's just sort this again. We'll come back to our current date. Here we go. So it used to be Ontario demo vendor, and now we've changed it to the AB demo vendor. So just a view of what that looks like and how you can integrate with the Office 365 productivity tools. Before we leave here, I want to just go through some of your business process. So purchase requisition, for example, I'm just going to click on purchase requisition and I'm going to create a new one. So I would just create a new one by clicking on the new icon. You can have different purchase requisition types. So I'm just going to choose a standard order here, for example. I can tab through these fields or I can point and click. And I'm going to add the line detail to this purchase requisition. So if I was consuming from an inventory, I would use the item tool here, in which case it would take the look to my inventory, or I can use an expense type or just a comment. So putting in an expense type, I'm going to choose I'm just going to type supplies here, and we'll choose our office supplies. And now looking at the details, I'm just going to say this is some stuff and tabbing over which vendor did I purchase this from. So we'll just put in Walmart here. And how many did I purchase of this stuff? And we'll say I got 2 and they were $300 each. And what is the tax code? And now it comes to my account set. And so if you were to do a deep dive into our finance system, you would learn about our chart of accounts that not only includes a natural chart of accounts, but also the ability to define it further with dimensions and even further through these account sets. And so with the account sets, it will tie together your natural accounts and your dimensions, automatically filling those all in here. So that I am now done this data entry. If I had an additional line, I would just add an additional line. I'm going to go ahead and send this off for approval. I'm going to send an approval request. It's informing me that this will exceed my budget, and I'm going to just say okay. And so now that approval has been sent, now I have full special privileges in this demo environment. So I would be able to actually move forward with that approval process. So I'm going to approve as an administrator, and then I'm going to actually create that purchase order. So creating that purchase order now will allow me to send that off to the vendor. And so I'm going to go ahead and just print or send that, or I'll just say send. And I could email that to them or I could print it off. Okay. Now, before we come back and I hand it over to Dexter, I did want to share about where we are going. And I'm going to just come into one of my other demo environments here. And we're going to get a sneak peek of what is coming in regards to AI. And I believe that this is really going to transform the way you use an application like Sparkrock Finance. And so what our users can look forward to is having a AI co-pilot chat embedded and allowing them to ask questions and retrieve information about their data right from the chat. So for example, I'm just going to ask a question here. I'm going to say, how many posted purchase invoices this year? And sort them from highest to lowest. And so it's going to look at my business data and bring back the answer for me, as well as the ability I could ask more questions of the data or jump to the data within the application. So great, it tells me, okay, this year you have had 41 posted purchase invoices. It's showing the top 3, but I'm going to go ahead and click on the link to the page. And what you're going to see, so I've got all of those posted purchase invoices. It's already sorted. The filter has already been created for me here. And pervasive throughout the finance system will be the ability to analyze your lists, your results. And so this is allowing you to build reports using natural language. So for example, okay, I've got this list. I'm going to summarize by vendor name. So just by using natural language, I'm able to create pivot table reports. I can ask it to make changes to it. I can keep this view, which means if I keep it, it's going to be available to me in future sessions of using this page. I'm just going to go ahead and discard that and we'll come back. Actually, before I leave this page, I want to talk about a couple of other things when it comes to AI. So when you hover over different columns, for example, you'll see I have the option to ask Copilot. So not only is this going to transform the way you use the software and are able to analyze your data, but also it's going to transform the way that you learn to use the software. So we saw here how I can ask questions through Copilot, and I can also ask it exactly how to do things. So for example, how do I configure user permissions? And it's going to give me step-by-step processes right here in the chat on how I can do the tasks that I am trying to do. There are several more things that we are looking forward to with the AI. I don't have time to go into all of them in today's session, but let me just come back to our PowerPoint. But we would certainly be happy to do a deeper dive with any of you when it's time, when you're ready. So let me just come back into our PowerPoint. Oh, I think we've lost the PowerPoint. Hold on a second. Well, I guess it's coming back, is it? There we go. Perfect. Amazing. So what we just looked at with the AI is future roadmap for 2025, improving and transforming the way you find data, analyze data, and overall improving your productivity. When it comes to the ecosystem and the integration, so last webinar, as we mentioned, we looked at the student information system. So how do all the teachers get into the student information system? Well, it all starts at HRP, and through the automation tools, it will update the users that are available in the student information system, will assign the teachers to the right school that now can be assigned to classes, and integration carries forward to finance with your posted payroll files, as well as a synchronization from finance to HRP, for which GLs are available to be assigned, and any updates to employee information is pushed out through the automation tools. And so with that, I'd like to hand it over to Dexter to share some of his experience.
Well, thank you very much, Wendy and Sparkrock, and everybody for joining. So I don't want to take a lot of your time, but what I do want to talk a little about is my experience prior to retirement with Palliser School Division, and maybe just overall my career. One thing that I've always felt strongly about in school business, the roles I've had with school boards and provincially and then interprovincially, meeting with all the other school business associations across Alberta, is, you know, the need to work together and to make sure that we have partners throughout, whether it be through utilities or software such as what we're talking about, or partnerships, so that we enhance our, not only our buying power, but our demand for what we need. And so the thing that really, in my opinion, starting back in 95 when I started, and then 2004, when I started looking at different softwares, products for HRP, finance, SIS, was the ability to report, and to report in a timely manner on data that we need. And really, there's a real dearth of software out there that allows you to report HR, payroll, and finance together in one database. And that's what Sparkrock gives you, is the ability to access those reports and to download into Excel. Looks much like pivot tables and functions that way. It's very functional. But as we look at it, I think we can, I've seen most of the systems, I think all the systems that we use in Alberta, and, you know, from a functional standpoint, they have a lot of similarities. But really, for me, what sets Sparkrock above the rest, and why I would say, is your ability to make decisions that are data driven. And that's, I can't stress that enough, where you can be in a meeting and have a question, whether it's a bargaining meeting, or you're meeting with your board about budget, or you've got, you're at a school, or you've got your MLA there, or the Minister of Education, and you're trying to present a viewpoint and show data that backs that up. You know, this product is really key for that. And so it's been amazing. When we started at Assembly and Sparkrock hadn't merged, now they have, and I'm astounded by the progress that's been made from then to now, and the commitment to Alberta. I think that's what we want, is to find software such as this that is committed to Alberta and to making the Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, the whole entire country, to be honest, work based on what their local need is. So we're all a little different, whichever province we're in, about how we fund, how we get funded, how we operate. And Sparkrock has committed to that in each one of those regions. And again, my perspective that I want to share today, I could talk forever, and most people that know me know I can talk forever, but what I really think is valuable here is that understanding that you're going to, by using this product, you're able to assemble data in a timely manner, so that when you make decisions, or when you're providing information, whether it's to your board or anybody else, that it's correct and it's factual. And so again, I could talk a long time, and if any of you want to have further conversations, I'm more than willing to do that. I don't have a lot of products like this I endorse. This is the only one, and it's because I've sat in your chairs, I've gone through the process, and I find that really for school boards in Canada, this is definitely the best choice at this that there is, and their commitment to making it work wherever region that we're in, or province, is has been shown and demonstrated time and again. So I think I'll leave it at that. And if there's any questions, I'm assuming we're happy to take any questions that you might have and discuss thoughts, concerns, or ideas you want to discuss.
Thank you, Dexter. Absolutely. And we actually have a lot of questions. We only have about 4 minutes left. So I am going to start, and some of these will be for you, Wendy. I'm going to start at the bottom, actually. Ryan had a question. I noticed you have TD-BMO and CIBC. What about Scotiabank? Absolutely. We support all the major banks, so not a problem with that. Ryan, your two biggest questions. Does the instance of Sparkrock run in its own tenant or does it run as an application within our tenant? Yes, the 365 base product is attached to the customer's tenant and the infrastructure is maintained and managed by Microsoft. But it's not accessible by the customer or by Sparkrock. So that infrastructure is managed by Microsoft. Implementation costs. Have the implementation costs improved since 2021? Yeah, that's a hard question to answer. I mean, we want to make sure that we're delivering value. The experience we have is that this is a huge project for every school board we work with. There's a lot of decisions to be made, not only with how you're going to configure the application, but also the business processes around it. And if we don't have the right investment in implementation, there is a significant impact on the success of the project. So we do like to be very upfront on the amount of effort that's going to be required. But I can say that, you know, we've heard, and Dexter can probably comment, I see your hand going up, that, you know, when you start looking at the longer term costs and the value prop, the investment's worthwhile.
Yeah, I think just quickly, if I may, Meg, is just to,
Yeah.
you know, right, I'd love to have a conversation around it. And I think the commitment is to find the sweet spot of how much is needed. But having done several implementations, I think it's really important. I think it's just as important for the school board as the software provider to make sure that there's adequate time and resources committed, or it drags out and it becomes a frustration for lots of people, especially your people that are hands-on every day in the system, to make sure there's enough training, there's enough resources made available so that the transition's really nice. So I think a really important thing, Ryan and others, is that, you know, sit down with the team and go through and look through how that implementation will impact the success of the project. And, you know, I frankly look at it as an investment in staff to do training that a lot of times, probably when I was earlier in my career, I overlooked, and then I paid the price in terms of delays and frustration. But there's certainly an opportunity to sit down and discuss and the depth of and what's needed. I can tell you it's just really about making sure that you're successful and that you have a successful experience and your staff is happy and able to do their job more efficiently and effectively at the end of the day, and that everything comes together on a timely manner so there's no delays or struggles during the process. I'll get off that soapbox now.
Yeah. Well, and Ryan would love the opportunity to discuss further with you. So we have two more questions and not a lot of time. Wendy, perhaps I'll give these ones to you. So do the Power BI reports link directly to live data as it's posted, or is there a delay when seeing the update to the reports? Do approvals need to be posted before it updates in some Power BI report?
So yes, you would need, there is a refresh option in the Power BI data, so it's not instantaneous. I think it would depend on the type of report that you have, whether or not it needs to be approved first, right? To see it or not.
But you can set the refresh rate to be almost instantaneous, like, depending
Exactly,
on how
yeah.
you want to set that up. That's one of the things that we would do so that it's pretty instantaneous if that's what you need.
So it's not an overnight batch type process.
No,
You have
right.
to wait
No.
for the next day or something.
No.
And
then, sorry,
you
go
want to do
ahead.
the last one, Wendy?
Is that the absence entry one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do have an absence entry screen in that employee self-service portal. It can start right there. They can enter an absence and then it would go to their supervisor for approval. And then from there, it can even have a third level approver if needed. Now, many of our customers, especially for teachers, for example, are using a third-party automated dispatch solution for those absences. So something like Apply to Education's Easy Connect or Smart Find Express or Frontline are all, we're really agnostic when it comes to automated dispatch. We will support any of them. But we also do have an absence entry process within our solution as well. And so I think that answers both of those questions in regards to the dispatch solution. Now, we, our preferred partner, Apply to Education. We can do that all under one contract as a preferred partner. So there's lots of options there for you.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. Well, we are 1 minute over time. I want to thank everyone for spending some of your very valuable time with us today. Hope you got what you were looking for out of this presentation. You know, if you would like more information or have a conversation, just jot down the email or further investigation via our website, and we would love the opportunity to chat with you further. And thanks, Wendy, and thanks, Dexter. Really appreciate both of you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.